Hello, my friends. We're going to read another story. This is called Alligator Baby by Robert Munsch. One night, Kristen's mother woke up and yelled, "A baby, a baby, I'm having a baby." Kristen's father jumped up, zoomed around the room, got dressed, and grabbed Kristen's mother by the hand. They ran downstairs to the car and drove off really fast. Vroom! Unfortunately, they got lost. They didn't go to the hospital. They went to the zoo. But it was okay. Kristen's mother had a lovely baby. They drove home and knocked on the front door. Blam! 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 Kristen opened up the door, and there was her mother holding something all wrapped up. "Kristen," said her mother, "would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. So Kristen lifted up the bottom of the blanket and saw a long green tail and said, "That's not a people tail." Kristen lifted up the middle of the blanket, saw a long green claw. "That's not a people claw." Kristen lifted up the top of the blanket and saw a long green face with lots of teeth and said, "That's not a people face. That's not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." Just then, the baby reached up and bit the mother on the nose. She yelled, "Ah!" Then the baby reached up and bit her father on the nose. He yelled, "Ah!" "That's not a people baby," said Kristen. "That's an alligator baby." "Goodness," said her mother, "we've got the wrong baby." So Kristen put the alligator baby in the fish tank, and her mother and father drove back to the zoo. They came back in an hour and knocked on the door. Blam! 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 Kristen opened up the door, and her mother said, "Would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. Kristen lifted up the bottom of the blanket and saw a fishy tail. "That's not a people tail." Kristen lifted up the middle of the blanket and saw flippers. She said, "That's not a people flipper." Kristen lifted up the top of the blanket and saw a face with whiskers. "That's not a people face. That's not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." Just then the baby reached up with its flipper and flip-flapped the father in the face. Whap, 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 whap. He yelled, "Ah! It's a seal baby. We've got the wrong baby." So Kristen put the seal baby in the bathtub, and her mother and father drove back to the zoo. They came back in an hour and knocked on the door. Blam! 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 "Kristen, would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. So she lifted up the bottom of the blanket and saw very hairy legs and said, "That's not people legs." She lifted up the middle of the blanket and saw very hairy arms and said, "That's not people arms." She lifted up the top of the blanket and saw a very hairy face and said, "That's not a people face. That's not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." What do you think? Do you think that's a people baby? Then the baby reached up with its feet and grabbed the mother's ear and the father's ear, and they both yelled, "Ah! It's a gorilla baby. We've got the wrong baby." "Let me do it," said Kristen. So her mother and father put the gorilla baby on the chandelier in the living room, and Kristen went off to the zoo on her bike. First, Kristen looked in the snake cage. No people baby there. Then Kristen looked in the wombat cage. No people babies. Then Kristen looked in the elephant cage. No people babies. Then she stopped and she listened, and from afar she could hear, "Wee! Wee! 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 Wee!" "That's more like it," said Kristen. She followed the sound, and it was coming from a gorilla cage. Kristen looked at the mummy gorilla and said, "Give me back my baby brother." The gorilla jumped away and wouldn't give back the baby at all. Then the people baby reached up and bit the the gorilla on the nose. The gorilla yelled, "Ah!" and handed the baby to Kristen. Kristen jumped on her bike and pedaled all the way home. Kristen knocked on the door. Bam! Blam! 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 When her parents opened up the door, she said, "Would you like to see your new baby?" Kristen's mother lifted up the bottom of the blanket. "Looks like people legs." She lifted up the middle of the blanket. "Looks like people arms." She lifted up the top of the blanket. "Looks like a people face." Kristen's mother picked up the baby, gave it a big hug. Her father took the baby and gave it a big hug. And her mother and father said, "Kristen, Kristen, you got the baby back. Good for you." "But what are we going to do with all these other babies?" yelled Kristen's father. "There's a seal baby in the bathtub, an alligator baby in the fish tank, and a gorilla baby hanging off the chandelier. We should take the babies back to the zoo." But Kristen looked out the window and said, "I don't think we'll have to do anything at all." Look at all the mummies came back for their babies, and they don't look very happy. And everything was okay until Kristen's mummy had twins. Oh my goodness, what a silly book. Well, I hope you enjoyed that book as much as I do. And make sure to follow me so you get a notification on my next postings, as well as like your favorite posts and comment on other stories or songs you would like to hear next. Bye-bye for now, my friends.